Okay, welcome everybody. A pleasure to see everybody. So as you know, and I've been mentioning, this is going to be online Beit Midrash, a little different. So I see everybody has their camera on except for two people. And so please, we do ask you to turn your camera on. That's the how this class is going to work. And it's really a pleasure to have Rabbi Grumet, who's spoken a number of times for us, and he suggested this idea of a sort of more interactive online Beit Midrash where people are going to write comments, maybe even do some readings before class, participate, show their face, get to know each other, try to make it a Beit Midrash style class. So I thank Rabbi Grumet for that idea. Of course, he is the author of the book on Breisheet. I told in the last couple of years, last years I read two whole books on Breisheet. Leon Kass's great book on Genesis, and Rabbi Grumet's great book, and they're different, and they're both worthwhile reading. But really, it's we're glad that Rabbi Grumet is will be teaching a course in Breisheet. He just pretty recently his book on Shemot came out. I don't know when his book on Vayikra is coming out. He probably hasn't even thought about that yet, and he's probably going to get mad at me for saying that because that'll be another 10 years. But okay, we can wait. Okay, Rabbi Grumet, we'll let you sort of introduce and say how you want to run the series and put stuff online in Bakasha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Believe it or not, I actually have started thinking about Vayikra.
There we
And
go.
it will take, I told the publisher, it will take a good few years. You got to be patient on this one because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. Good. I think I'm stepping out of a lot of people's comfort zones going into Vayikra. And that's part of why I'm doing it. Because I want to make Vayikra accessible to the masses. Right now, it's mostly not. Okay, my name is Tzvi Grumet. I'm really excited about this. I've been teaching for many, many years here in Yerushalayim. Before that, in the States, in the New York area, mostly in New Jersey. And I hate to lecture. So that's why in my teaching, I don't lecture. And every once in a while, I'm called upon to give a standalone shiur. So there I'll do what's expected. But when Rabbi Kelman approached me and asked me to teach something on an ongoing basis, so the first thing that came to my head was, I don't want to lecture every week. I want to learn. I want to learn together with people. And the goal, my goal in that is number one, that's how I learn. I learn best when I talk to other people. I think when we combine the brains that are here, we get a lot more than otherwise. And hearing other people's ideas, I have over the course of the years from my students, I've grown tremendously. And I look forward to continue to do that. And I find that the interaction is beneficial on all sides. So that's why I suggested this. It does slow things down. If I were to lecture, we could cover a lot more ground. But the learning is a very different kind of learning. It's a learning in which you're passive. And I don't like passive learning. I think people learn best when they're active, when they're engaged, when their voices are heard, when they have a chance to think and formulate, and then listen to other people. So it's not a Beit Midrash. We're not all sitting in the same room, but there are certain things from a Beit Midrash that I think we can bring here. And really, I think there are a number of key elements. One of the key elements is that everybody has to engage the text on their own, meaning individually, not personally. It doesn't always have to be, by yourself, but everybody has to engage the text personally. That's number one in terms of what I think we can accomplish here. Number two, everybody should have the opportunity to have their voice heard. Now, when you're dealing in an online environment, that becomes a little bit more complicated. Becomes much more complicated just managing who speaks and when they speak. And that's why I thought that it would be really valuable for us to have to have a forum where we can all post, and a forum that's better than chat. A forum in which your words live. They don't disappear off the screen. They don't disappear at the end of the session. They live there. You can go back to them. You can see what other people have written. People can comment on what other people have written. I think that's you know, there are probably some very complicated, fancy ways of doing that will accomplish the dialogue better. For right now, we're going to use a Google Doc because it's simple and it's easy, and most people have had some kind of experience with just going onto the Google Doc. So I'm just going to post the Google Doc, post the link into the chat, and in just a minute, we're going to start referring to it because we're going to start our first learning. Let me just find, here we go. Here's the chat, and let me open this up. And why is it not opening?
Do both.
Okay, let me just do that. Here we go. So I'm just going to put the link to the document. There's very little on there right now, but what is there is actually pretty significant because it is going to guide. It guides me. Let me put it this way: it guides me whenever I open up the Chumash to read. So these are the questions that I am always thinking about, whether consciously or unconsciously. It's become a habit of thought. And I'm hoping that we can accomplish the same thing, that people will use the questions, and I'll talk about them in a minute, and then we're going to start. We're going to dive right in. We're going to dive right into our first text. But the idea behind it is to create, to generate ways of thinking that put us on similar pages, not all on the same page, but on similar pages that we can share ideas that can actually interact with each other. So that's it's on the doc, and you can open up, you can start looking at it. What I hope to do on a regular weekly basis is by the end of this year, I will share with you what our next text is going to be. And then sometime over the course of the week, for you to take some time, read through the text, have these questions in front of you, think about them, and write on this document. This is going to be a living document. So put your thoughts, and you can add your name. We'll make it a little bit more personal. Hopefully, over the course of time, I'll get to know who you are. It takes me a long time, and I forget names. I'm sorry. I'm really bad. I forget all the time. My students know this, and I apologize from day number one, and they don't believe me until the day after they leave at the end of the year, and I say, just remind me of your name. And they look at me with this crazy look, like, anyway. So that's what I hope that we can that I can begin to learn some of your names as well, as we have a real, genuine learning dialogue together. And this is an experiment, so we will be figuring out and tweaking as we go along to try to improve the model in the ways that we can think of best. Okay, here are the 5 questions, and some of you may be familiar with some of these questions in different formats, and that's fine. But these are the questions that subconsciously I am always thinking about whenever I read a text. There are others also, but that's like for later on. Okay. Number 1, what did you find in the text that you weren't expecting? Okay, or that doesn't belong. That's another way of saying that. When I was younger, that may have been phrased to me as what's extra? what's unnecessary. Okay, and that's one kind of thing to look for as we're reading in a text. Okay, number two, what were you expecting the text to say and it didn't say? Okay, again, in the language of when I was younger, what's missing? Okay, these are the questions when I first started learning Chumash, and my teachers wanted, and we would learning Chumash with Rashi. So my teachers would always say, "Okay, what's extra and what's missing?" All right. Number three, what did you find unusual? We have certain expectations. So sometimes there's something that's there, and just it could be a word that's unusual. Oh, I don't recognize that word. I'm used to certain words, and by the way, this still happens to me. I had this last week. I said that's a word. Does it appear anywhere else in all of Tanakh? And I went and checked, and the answer was no. So, okay, so that speaks volumes already when you have something that's unusual, it's different. Okay. Now we get to some of the larger questions. Does it remind you of something else? Now, again, we're starting with Breisheet in the very beginning. It's hard for us to remind us of something else that we had learned earlier, unless we're pulling from our vast knowledge of what we've learned in the, in our lifetimes. And finally, did you notice any phrases or words that repeat themselves? Because if you see a word that repeats itself, it's calling for attention. If you see a phrase that repeats itself, it's calling for attention. Okay, what you'll notice over here, by the way, is that all of these questions are about reading the text. And I need to put a caveat out there. This is what I do. I read the text of the Torah. I am familiar with what other people say the text means. I am familiar with the fact that there is a history that's at least 2,000 years of biblical commentary, from the Midrashim through the Rishonim, the medieval commentaries, through some of the more modern commentaries. I can't say I know them all. I don't have an encyclopedic brain, but I am familiar with that. But what I'm interested in is engaging the text directly. Not to share with you, oh, this is what I once heard about this, but rather, what do you think this means? And based on what do you say that? So I am interested in all of us together doing a direct engagement with the text of the Torah. The Ramban may have had wonderful things to say. That's very nice, but right now that doesn't interest me. Rashi has wonderful things to say. That's nice. He's standard. He's printed in most standard editions of the Chumash. But right now, what Rashi says doesn't interest me. Right? What interests me and what I would really like to help us learn how to do is engage the text directly. One of the things that I have found is, number one, when I'm with a group of people, whether it's a group of 5 people or 50 people, it doesn't make a difference. Inevitably, there will be many people who will say the same things as some of the greatest minds in Jewish history. It always happens because that's what they did. They engaged the text directly. And we are engaging in the same process that Rashi and Ibn Ezra and Sforno and Rav Sajika own. We're engaging in the same process. They may have had more background knowledge, but we are engaging in the same process. Inevitably, there are going to be people who are going to say the same things that have been said by the greatest commentaries who ever lived. Inevitably, we are going to be saying things that nobody's ever said before. And that's because this is very much a living text, and it lives differently in every generation. We speak a different language. We have different concerns. We have different interests. We have different backgrounds. We have different worldviews. And whether we bring it intentionally or not intentionally, it's there. And because of that, our reading of the text is going to be different than the way the text was written 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. Okay, and that is really what I'm interested in bringing here and bringing all of us to become really good readers of the text. That's my goal. Okay, so that's that's the big introduction. You might hear pieces of this over and over and over again when people need to be reminded. I apologize for that in advance. Um, but what I would actually like to do is I'd like to start with with opening up a text. And here, I hope you all have a chumash of some kind. I
Yeah.
don't care what language you're working in, Hebrew, English. I always work in the Hebrew because there are things there that you see if you're working in the English. So take note of which English translation you're working with. Okay, because if you make a comment based on a translation, it's fascinating to see what other people who are working with different translations comment. And you see, but when you see that there are different translations, you begin to say, okay, so what did it say in the original? Okay, and my goal is really always to bring us back to the original. So what I'd like to do is I would like to start with probably the most difficult section in the entire Torah. Um, and that's the opening five psukim of Sefer Breisheet. And what we'll do is we'll take, let's take 5 minutes. It'll be silent here for 5 minutes. And I'm comfortable with the silence. I hope you are too. Let's take 5 minutes. Um, and we're just going to take everybody on your own. Read carefully the opening five psukim, the opening five verses of the book of Breishit. You have a number. You have your five questions to look at over here. Is there something there that you aren't expecting that popped up? Is there something that's missing? Is there something that's unusual? Are there repeating words and phrases? And is there something that reminds you? Here, probably there may or may not. I don't know. Maybe there are things that I'm not familiar with. So, are there things that reminded you of other things that you think could be relevant here? Okay. When you have any kinds of observations, just write them into the doc. Write them on this
Mhm.
Google Doc. You can put your initials or your name so we can identify you in some way. And then in 5 minutes, we will reconvene. I'm going to be reading this stuff as we go along, and then we're going to start to work our way through the psukim. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, we're going to take another 30 seconds. Okay. Um, So you can continue writing. I see that people are writing both in the chat and in the and on the online doc, and um, that creates challenges. I'm going to try to rise to those challenges. I see quite a number of very significant comments over here, starting with the word Breisheet. There are a lot of people who are troubled by the word Breisheet. What does it mean? They Some people found translations. That say Breishit doesn't mean in the beginning, which is the way it appears in the King James Bible, and many of us are familiar, but they found translations that say in the beginning of creation, God, right, Breishit, which basically follows Rashi's reading of the Chumash, but that's the word Breishit itself. So a number of people sort of got stuck right there in the first word. A number of people commented on the name Elohim. They want to know why that name of God appears and not any of the other names of God. Okay. Somebody made a comment about the water, the mayim in Pasuk Beit. Ruach Elokim rachefet al pnei hamayim. So how, what water is that? Where did the water come from? Somebody just wrote the Ruach Elokim. Is that wind? Is that spirit? What is that? Is there's a lot happening here. And truth is, when you slow down the reading, like we just did, we took 5 minutes, but it was exactly 5 minutes to look at 5 psukim. When you slow down the reading, you begin to notice things. This is one of the most common texts. People hear this all the time, right? But you stop to think about it, and all of a sudden, you realize that there's a lot lurking here underneath the surface, or right on the surface, that we don't really understand. I see somebody here asked about what do Erev and Boker mean. Okay. Somebody asked about the word Yom. And was there anything that happened beforehand? So there, I'm looking at all the questions that we have over here. What does tohu vavohu mean? Okay, meaning these 5 psukim. So first of all, there's a lot here, even just in terms of the words. If we go through the words, there are so many words over here that are difficult, and I'm gonna try to point them out. Okay, let's start with the word Breishit. What does the word Breishit mean? It means in the beginning of, right? And that word comes up many times in the Torah. Reshit kol pri admatcha.
Then my friend came here.
Oh, he came here.
Yeah.
So that's better.
He came and he's sitting somewhere.
Oh,
God.
Okay. Reshit pri admatcha. Reshit tiganchat, he wrote, it means the first of your fruits, the first of your grains, the first of your wines. So Bereshit, in the beginning of what?
Is it related? Is it related to word Rosh?
Rosh, as in, because Rosh can mean head. Head is first, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Rishon, right? So they all come from the same root.
Is it in
And
a beginning or in the beginning?
in
Because
in the
it's
beginning
it's
of.
not ba. It's in a beginning.
Well, it's the beginning of. The first of.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem is that, I mean, you see the first of, you expect afterwards to have a noun. The first of your fruits, the first of your children, the first of your sheep, the first of your flocks, right? And here what follows is not a noun, but it's a verb. And the verb is not, I don't know how to explain the verb tenses. Rashi reads this, and that's with the source of some of the translations that some of you picked up over here, picked up on. But Rashi reads this as Breisheet biro Elokim, in the beginning of the creation, in the beginning of God's creation. The problem is that's not what the Torah says. So the only way for Rashi's interpretation to work over here is by changing the words of the Torah. I don't like to do that. I have the words of the Torah. I need to work with what the Torah actually says. Bara is past tense. It's not a present tense. It's not describing an art. It's in the beginning of Elohim's creation. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. In the beginning, bara Elohim, God created. Elohim created. It's past tense. It's not an ongoing verb. So Rashi's interpretation, which is reflected over here in I think in the Koren translation, in maybe in the JPS translation, they're untenable. I know what they're based on, but
I'm just going to, the Art Scroll one has in the beginning of God's creating.
Yes.
So it's in the present more.
So I'm going to say something now. I might get sued for this, but Art Scroll is the worst possible translation to use.
Unfortunately,
I'll tell you why. Okay, and that's not a criticism of you. Art Scroll translates the Chumash based on Rashi's interpretation.
Oh. All right, let me get
and that's why, as a translation, it's the worst because it gives you already, it colors your reading through one set of eyes. Okay, but and they're open about this. I mean, if you read through the introduction to the article, they'll tell you, right? It's based on Rashi's interpretation. But if we want to encounter the text, so now we have, but right but what you mentioned there, right? The article translation, right? It matches basically the same as the JPS and the Koren translations, right? JPS and Koren are not necessarily based on Rashi, but it comes to the same. So we have a problem over here. The word Breisheet is difficult.
It also is. It sounds. What is Reishit? Because it sounds like Bereishit with Reishit bara Elohim.
Okay, so now we're getting into Hasidic readings. Okay, a Hasidic reading would say, using Reishit, whatever Reishit means, God, right? But Reishit, right? Using Reishit, God created, right? That's a nice Hasidic reading, but it sort of avoids the question of what Reishit is, and Reishit, to the best of my knowledge, is never really used in Tanakh as an object, right? It's a modifier. So the word Breisheet is problematic. So we have this pasuk, and we can't get past the first word. The second word provides us with difficulties as well. The word bara. So it turns out, and we're going to see this, it turns out when you go work your way through the creation story, there are many different words that are used to describe creation. There's bara, there's yatsar, there's asa, there's hivdil, right? The word bara appears in only 3 contexts in the creation story.
רגע אחד, can I say something? when we don't understand the word in Hebrew, we are looking for the shoresh. If we know the shoresh, we can get 10 words and we see what is really fitting to us. So the shoresh of Bereshit is Reish Aleph Shin, which is Rosh. So the Rosh, exactly as the Rosh, the beginning of the body, the beginning of the head of the body, it is the beginning of the Torah, the beginning of the Olam. It's the Amilah Rosh is a head of. So this can help us just to look for a shoresh when we don't understand a Hebrew word.
Right. So I think we understand what the word Breisheet means. We don't understand how it connects to the rest of the sentence. In the beginning of, and it doesn't tell us what that of is. It's ... Okay. Then we have the word bara, which again, what's the difference between the meaning of the word bara, yatsar, asa, all those different verbs? We're gonna have to figure that out. Elokim. A number of you commented that why is that the name used here for God? And that's a really excellent question. And by the way, throughout the entire first parak, the only name that's used for God throughout all of Parak Aleph and the first 3 psukim of Parak Beit is Elokim. It's exclusive. There is no Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Right.
It's only the term Elokim. So we need to explore what does that name mean? And then
the shorish is El, which means power.
right. Okay, that's good. So right. So if the shorish is El, so how would you then translate the word Elokim?
The Almighty One.
The Almighty.
Well, it's also plural, so it's
All-powerful.
all the powers.
It's
Also,
the all-powerful one.
And
Okay.
forever, Kayam, forever, powerful.
I don't know about forever, but the
Mhm.
word ale, as was pointed out, and I don't even know who's commenting because I don't see all your faces on the screen. But whoever pointed that out, the word ale means strength or power, and you have that in lots of places in the Chumash. In non-religious sense meanings as well. So Elokim as the all-powerful one. And that's what's highlighted here, by the way, in the whole first parak of creation. And then we have the end of Pasuk Aleph. What was it that was created? The Shamayim and the Aretz. Now, I happen to be a little bit familiar with this chapter. The Shamayim doesn't appear until the second day of creation. And here, I mean, it's not created until the second day of creation. The Aretz isn't created until the third day of creation. And yet here they're introduced to us in the very opening pasuk.
Could we say that God created Aleph, Tet, everything from A to Z?
Now, that again is a beautiful Hasidic reading. It is. It's a beautiful Hasidic reading, or a Midrashic reading.
But also it mentions or light. Also, the light came on the fourth day by Shemesh.
Okay, so if we move on a little bit further, all right, you jump now to Pasuk Gimel. I'm going to try to go sequentially over here just to point out what some of the challenges are of this opening passage. We're going to have to deal with these challenges, and we're not. It's going to take a little time, but we're going to deal with them. Don't worry.
Shemayim and Eretz were created on day 1. In day 2, God Elohim deals with Shemayim, and as well as day 4. And in day 3, he deals with Aretz, but he doesn't
No, it doesn't say
Aretz.
that though. When you read the psukim, it does. I'm sorry, but it doesn't say that. He doesn't deal with them. He creates them. They don't exist until Shamayim doesn't exist until day 2, and Aretz doesn't exist until day 3. You just have to read the words. Okay. Va'aretz hayta pasuk Beit.
Shamayim means in the Shamayim there should be a rakia.
No, here rakia betoch hamayim. Betoch hamayim, not shamayim.
I
The mayim.
apologize.
It's okay.
I
No
stand.
problem.
I stand corrected.
No problem.
Rakia
That's what
and
we do.
Shammai may not be the same thing.
Okay. Right now, we're jumping to the second day. I don't want to deal with the second day yet. We haven't
No,
gotten.
I think it's just
We
a
haven't.
heading.
We
It's like
haven't
a
even gotten
heading.
into the first day.
It's
Okay.
just a heading. It's not saying it was created. It will be created, but it's just kind of a hint from the beginning. That's how it's going to be.
That
But
would be nice. It would be even nicer if it said it in the future tense.
I see. Right. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Va'aretz hayta tohu vavohu. I don't know what tohu vavohu means. Choshech al pnei tahom. What does choshech mean in any kind of context if we don't have light yet? It's a meaningless term. Tahom, well, in the rest of Tanakh, tahom has the meaning usually of depths. The depths of the waters are called the tahom, right? And then we have this ruach elokim, which we don't know, is that a wind? Is it God's spirit? Is merachefet, is hovering al pnei hamayim, on the face of the waters? Where did these waters come from? God created shamayim va'aretz. There is no water yet.
And we don't know what the light is. What kind of light is that?
Okay, now we get to Pasuk Gimel. You raise the issue of the light, right? Pasuk Gimel, Vayomer Elokim yehi or. Let there be or. And I'm going to stick with this for a minute. I'm not going to translate the word or. I know how it's translated in every single translation. The same, right? But you'll see in a minute why that's problematic, right? Vayomer Elokim yehi or, vayehi or, and there was or.
Is there a connection between tohu and tahom? It's the first three letters of tahom is tohu, and is there some modification of tohu with adding that mem?
That's a very interesting insight. The first person I know who said that was of Saadia Gaon. He suggested that there's a connection there, and there. I'd like to come back to that later. Right now, I'm just sort of outlining some of the issues that need to be dealt with over here. Vayar Elokim et ha'or ki tov. Which, if I'm reading this for the first time, so I'm sort of surprised. Why would he think that the thing he created is not good? What does it mean he saw that it was good?
What does tov mean?
What does tov?
Tov mean?
Okay, what does tov
What tov means? What
Great
tov
question.
means? You said it's good, but how do you know from the text?
Yeah. Okay, I accept that. Okay, so what does tov mean? What does ki tov? Right? Vayavdel Elokim bein ha'or uvein ha'choshech. He then separated between the or, which I'm not going to translate, and the choshech, which I'm also not going to translate. And then we get to the last pasuk. And again, we hear this all the time. And what we did today was slowing down the reading. And when you slow down the reading, you realize just how little we understand and just how much work there is to do in getting us started. Okay? The last pasuk hey. Vayikra Elokim la'or yom. Whatever the or was, he now calls it yom. Okay? So, and then v'lachoshech kara laila. So whatever the choshech was, which I refuse to define, is now called laila. Okay, from now on, yom refers to, right, the thing that used to be called or, Laila refers to the thing that used to be called choshech. If that's the case, by the way, then how would you translate the word or? Based on the fact that God calls the or yom.
Day. Or would be day then.
Or is day.
Right.
And what's choshech?
Night.
Night. Or and choshech do not mean, at least in this stage, they don't mean light and dark. They mean they're definitions of time. Okay? Let's just hold that thought. We're going to come back to this. Okay? But for right now, just based on what it says over here, right? They're definitions of time. And then we have this really strange closing to this first section of the Chumash. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Voker Yom Echad. Erev, I know how they're translated in the translations, evening, and Choshech, and Boker, morning. But what's evening before there's a sun? What's morning before there's a sun? Before there's an earth? So what's Erev and Boker?
Erev,
okay.
Yeah. Erev means mixed up, doesn't it? Is it used to be mixed up like Erev Rav?
Yeah, so Erev means mixed up, yes. And Boker, actually,
Vaker,
Levaker.
Is it?
So
Right?
the word Levaker comes up in the Chumash in Lo Yevaker bein tov l'ra. It means to distinguish. Erev means to mix up, and Boker means to distinguish, to separate.
And that's what happened. Things were all mixed up, and then there was some separation. But
Isn't that fascinating?
There's a separation, but there's not a cycling.
No cycling. Absolutely not. Okay.
So Rabbi, why is not using Laila and Yom? He already called Laila and Yom. So why did he use Laila and Yom?
That's a great question. If Erev meant Laila, then maybe he would have used those words. But Erev doesn't mean Laila. No. Erev means mixing up. And Boker doesn't mean daytime. It doesn't even mean morning. Right? Our current use of Boker as morning is a borrowed term. When I say a borrowed term, means the original meaning of Boker was to be able to distinguish and separate between things. So that, for example, when the Mishnah wants to talk about when's the beginning of the day, it's when you can see the difference between the blue thread of the tzitzit and the white thread of the tzitzit. It's levaker. It's to distinguish. The morning is when we can distinguish things. Nighttime is when things get all blurry. They're all mixed together. Okay,
Rabbi.
But those are
the opposite.
But those are borrowed meanings. Here, the Torah gives us the original meaning, right? And because Erev can't mean evening before you have cycles of it can't mean that, right? So what we have here is something fascinating. We have the opening of the Torah. In the opening of the Torah, here's my first conclusion. Just based on what we've done here in the last 25 minutes, my first conclusion is that there are words that are used here in ways that are different from the way they are used anywhere else in Tanakh. And maybe that's necessary, because the world as it exists is different from the world in which we live. So maybe it's necessary in the beginning the Torah uses words. It could have made up other words, but it uses words that are close to meanings that we're going to at least be able to make a little bit of sense with. But those words, like even the word eretz. So in another 2 days, meaning on the third day, the Torah is going to tell you what eretz means. But what that means is if I work my way backwards, that means that the first time that it used the word eretz in Pasuk Aleph and in Pasuk Beit, it didn't mean the same thing as on the third day. And when the first time it used the word shamayim in Pasuk Aleph, it doesn't mean the same thing as shamayim on the second day. But it used that word because it's as close as we're going to get. But what we have over here is, this is like we're starting from scratch. We have to define things, and I'm going to use words, and you're not going to understand exactly what the words mean. Don't worry about it.
Rabbi,
yes.
Look, right now we are in the Breisheet. Hashem creates the world. Maybe in the same time, he creates a language.
That's for sure.
So he creates the language. What you said, like about the boker, and you have the word levaker, I understand. But the first thing, the basic is boker. And after that comes levaker. You can maybe try to explain what it means, but Hashem creates, like the word tov. We think what it is, but it's the first time created here. The Reshit, everything is being created. So it's a language creation that Hashem uses. Maybe it was another language before, whatever it is, but right now we are being creating. And that's what we're doing. Yeah, right now what you're doing, you're creating understanding of words that never were used before.
Yes. So we are creating language, and I would go even a step further. We're not just creating language, but time itself is being created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? If we take a step back and just think about what, at least in Judaism, what our concept of God is, right? God is, I'm going to say two things. God is eternal, and Elohim is all powerful. Those are the two things that the two things that we sort of established, because he was there before creation.
Wow.
Right? When you're eternal, when you live when you exist forever, I don't even want to use the word live. When you exist forever, time is irrelevant. Time is meaningless. Right? Time was created in order for this world to exist. Right? Before there's a concept of time, we can't exist.
But it was all done through judgment. And when we were asking why the word is Elohim, I think this is referring to Hashem's quality of judgment, because there was no one else to bounce it off of. It was just Hashem making all of these judgments.
Okay. So
I'd like to, yeah, sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Please. Are you able to hear me? I'm sorry, I'm struggling with my phone here. Is it coming through?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
I have one observation and one question. When God says, "Let there be light," who is he speaking to?
That's a great question.
Is there no one there? Why let? You wouldn't say let if it is entirely within your own power. I mean, I just find it a fascinating phrase.
Okay.
That's one question. And my other, please, yeah.
Okay, so this is part of the vagaries of working in a language that is not the original. Okay, when we translate the he or,
sure.
Okay, let it exist. Right? In English, we say the word let. Yeah. Okay, it sounds like, but the word let, in English sounds like you're asking permission, right? But yehi doesn't mean that.
Yes.
He means it
Okay.
should exist. Literally.
The command.
I see.
Yes. It should exist. Okay. The translations translated
Okay.
into, all right. But and who's he talking to? So this is something we have to get back to. I just want to point that I'm
Okay.
looking at
All right.
my
And
neck right now, and we have less than 7 minutes. I firmly believe in
okay.
starting on time and respecting people's time by finishing on time. So I just wanted to point out a few things in the time
Sure.
we have left, and then clearly
Sure.
we're not going to finish everything here. We're going to need to spend some more time working on this stuff next week, but I want to leave you with something to work on so that when we come back next week, we can move forward. So number one, what seems clear is that there's the creation of time itself. And maybe that's what Breisheet is all about. Okay, maybe, and now I'm going to give you a Hasidic reading. Breisheet bara Elokim. God created beginning.
Okay.
Again?
God created beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. It's good. It's good.
That was necessary. He created the concept of time. And then by the time we finish this first yom, and I hate using the word day, because yom is used in at least 2 different contexts here in these first 5 psukim. So by the time you finish that first yom, right, we already have 2 different types of time. Okay, there's one kind of time that's called yom, and there's another kind of time that's called laila. But yom and laila don't mean light. Sorry, or and choshech don't mean light and dark. They're functions of time, and we're going to see more of this.
They're finite as opposed to infinite.
Right, we'll see more of this.
Rabbi,
Okay,
I heard
so we have
Rabbi.
So we have
Rabbi.
creation of language. I'm going to beg your indulgence now. We have less than 5 minutes. Okay. We have the creation of time. We have the creation of language. You have the beginning of, and when you create a language, so it goes through all sorts of, and we see over here already there are changes in what the language is. We have quite a number of mysteries that we have to that we have to work through over here to figure out. And I want to leave you with one observation, okay? Because we're not going to have an opportunity now to put this whole package together. The observation, and leave you to think with this. If you take a look at all the other days of creation or yamim of creation, they all start with Vayomer Elokim, Vayomer Elokim, Vayomer Elokim. Right? They all start with Vayomer Elokim. Pasuk Aleph does not start with Vayomer Elokim. Where is Vayomer Elokim?
Verse
3.
Pasuk Gimel. Exactly right. Okay. Somebody mentioned something a little while ago, and I want to. And again, I can't see who's. Although I can't really identify the voice and the face. But somebody pointed out that maybe the first 2 psukim are an introduction. They're an introduction to creation. Creation only starts with pasuk gimel. So from a linguistic perspective, just looking at the language the Torah uses, there's actually evidence within the text to support such a claim. And if there's evidence in the text to support such a claim, what that's going to do is going to force us now to reread what are the first 2 psukim doing there. Right? So somebody said it's an introduction. Well, what do you need an introduction for? What's the purpose of that introduction? Hopefully, when we come back next week, we will take the first few minutes, maybe even the first 15, 20 minutes, to work through and try to make sense out of what's happening in these first 5 psukim today. We asked a lot of questions, and we heard a lot of comments, and we now understand just how much there is to do in order to try to understand this. So that's point number one. The second point I wanted to leave you with, and that is that for next week, what we did over here, we took 5 minutes to go through 5 psukim. And what I would like, in order to maximize our time together, so it would be great if you could learn through the next 2 days of creation. I'm just going to use that word because it's what people understand. To learn through the next 2 days of creation. You have the link over here to the document. You have the questions that can be good, helpful, guiding questions. And feel free. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a line at the end of the comments from today's class. Feel free to just go in there and add your comments so that I have a chance to look at them during the course of the week before we come in. So when we come back next week, we'll be able to, number one, go through that first yom and try to make some sense out of it, and then begin to discuss the second yom and maybe the third with you having with everybody having a little bit of preparation, so we can dive into this a little bit more effectively.
But the text.
Excuse me, can you tell me where I can find the material? Because I came into the Zoom quite late. Is the material available somewhere?
Well, I will send out the link in an email to everybody. It's I'll put it here now down below. I just posted it again. We can send out the link. Maybe we can even post it on the website. We'll see. Maybe that's the easiest, and then people can just go to the program page.
Would you be able to send it out by email?
Yeah, we can send
Would
out
you be
the
able
email.
to send it out by
I'm going to
email?
do another favor,
Okay, thank you.
Just a technical favor. People can register for this class one of two ways. You can register directly for the class, or you can do a single registration for all classes. I'm going to ask anybody who did a single registration for all our fall 12 courses in the fall to go back and register for this class exclusively, because we'll send stuff. So if you've already registered, I just think that'll make it a little bit easier. I don't have to bother the other 150 people who registered for all the classes who aren't here necessarily. So this way I'll know that it's just the people in this group. So please do register for that. And please do put your comments during the course of the week. And please do keep your cameras on. We were better than usual, but it wasn't, if you can, especially if you're going to speak up. And I'll ask one other thing, because thank God there's a lot of questions and discussion back and forth. If you're not speaking, I'll go in when somebody talks, the phone rings, so I mute the person. But when there are 6 people who are unmuted, it's often hard to tell. So unless you're speaking, try to keep yourself muted, and that will just make life easier for all of us.
Okay.
Rabbi,
I would add one thing. Excuse me. I would add one thing. I noticed in the chat that there is somebody in this year who is visually impaired. So that's one of the things that if you have access to an audio text that you can prepare with, Rabbi Kelman, is there a way to? I'm sure there's a way to get the questions that I put up to have them in an audio format, so that
that's a good question. I'm sure there is a way, and we'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
Yes, I felt very bad when I saw that comment. Right.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, obviously there are limitations, but I think we can do what we can to try to accommodate.
There's probably a read option in Google.
Okay.
Well, Lon, what are you saying?
In all likelihood, within Google, there's a way to have the audio. It won't be perfect, and the Hebrew won't be 100%, but that's probably the best option.
Right. Right. But if somebody's visually impaired, well, whatever. Maybe they can have somebody else. I don't know how exactly that works. But I'm sure that
what a great idea. What a great idea for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I am at your service. Okay. And I appreciate the opportunity to learn with all of you, and hopefully to get to meet you and get to know who you are a little bit more over the course of time.
Thank you. Yes, I think for a lot of us, it's a very enlightening, and I don't know if I can use the word light. I don't know in Orange or whatever, but whatever. And okay, regular Mark Shapiro's back tonight. Regular class, 8:30. Rav Kook. That's a total different topic. But his fascinating book on Rav Kook. Tomorrow, Rabbi Shulman on Sefer Yeshua, and tomorrow at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Dr. Moshe Sokolov, Piyut on the Parsha. It's also something new, but I think it'll be regular format. You can have Piyut on the Parsha every week. That was tomorrow at 10 a.m. 1 p.m. is Rabbi Shulman. Wednesday night, Nati Helfgott begins his year-long series on Sefer Yecheskel. And Thursday night Parsha, of course, and Friday on the Siddur, my class on the Siddur. Next week, Menachem Leitag will begin his place on Vayikra. Benny Gesundheit will continue on Tehillim. Tamar Weisman will start her series on the daughters of Rachel. Yocheved Friedman will start her series on Rav Soloveitchik on the Avot. I think those are the new classes for next week. We got lots to keep you busy. Please invite a friend to come. Everybody needs to invite one friend to come to class. If I tell you invite 5 friends, you won't do it. But if I tell you invite one friend who doesn't come, invite them, encourage them to come to class. That'd be great. And Rav Tzvi, thank you. We look forward to seeing you and all good things. Continue to learning. We should hear good news.
Thank you, rabbis.
And we'll see you all soon. And which feedback, would be great from us, logistical stuff. Obviously, I think it's I think we're all excited here because we like this idea of an experiment. But as Rav Tzvi says, we'll tweak it. We'll see how what can work best. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day. And we look forward to learning with you soon. And go, Jays, go. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. A lot of good stuff to process.
I'm sorry.
A lot of good stuff to process.
Yes, of course. Of course. That's the idea. That's the idea. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Everybody be well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. Be well.
Wow.